Hello my students, welcome to our channel Brainix Learning Point. This video is for those who wants to score well in their maths exam even if they are left with few days of preparation. And I'm sure at the end of the video you will not be having maths anxiety anymore. So let's get started. So let us start with chapter 1, that is relations and functions. If we talk about the CBSE board, a 6 marks question is generally asked from this chapter. Now the point is, why do you want to study this chapter? So we have heard that some students face issue in studying this chapter. So my suggestion is, if you want to score more than 90% in your exams, then study this chapter thoroughly and study from a good tutor or your teacher, or from somewhere, from the internet, or from somewhere else. So the topics which you should study in this exam if you want to score well. So the topics which generally comes is your equivalence relation and your composition of function. To have a very good hand in this chapter, then you have to study, then you have to clear your concept from the starting of your school or your class. And now next chapter comes is chapter 2, that is inverse trigonometry function. Sorry for my writing, actually it's a pad, that is I'm not able to getting my hand on this pad. Trigonometry function. This, if the two question, if you are from a science background, if you want to go for the science entrance exams after your class 12th, then it is very important chapter, then you cannot skip this chapter. Second is, what you can do to have a good knowledge in this chapter. You can prepare some graphs and formulas on the paper and then paste it on your wall. In this way you can keep on memorizing the formulas frequently. Actually, the important point of this chapter is many chapters are linked with this chapter even in your further studies. So it is important if you are from the science background. Now next we come to the chapter 3 and chapter 4, that is matrices and determinants. So if you have a very short period, then you can practice some multiplication questions, find the product of a matrix and addition of matrix, subtraction of matrix. These are very simple questions, and they definitely comes of 2 marks or 4 marks. Then what else you can do is to gain in short period knowledge is practice some symmetric and symmetric and skew symmetric relations. And general questions are asked for 4 or 6 marks. You can practice inverse, find the inverse of this matrix. One important point I would like to add, this solving this question is time consuming. My suggestion is, whenever you are solving this question, take your proper time in solving, just look step by step, so that you are not losing you are not doing any silly mistakes, so that you are total time, because solving this question will take around 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes, and you are doing a plus minus mistake at the starting. So, and if you are going with the right steps, then you are not able to achieve the right solution, and you're and you will not get any marks. because in this steps are easy to remember that what you have to do, but the point is that the accuracy of doing the calculation is important. So in this chapter my suggestion is rather like just practice inverse of matrix, or just practice multiplication of matrix, or like whatever you choose, any topic properly, do the calculations. Don't just hurry up and like skip the steps. Don't skip chapter 4 because they are totally interlinked. Generally students lose marks in these questions is due to speed. So now we come to the chapter 5, that is continuity and differentiability. Actually this chapter is again become, if you are from science stream, then you must have to do this chapter. You cannot skip this chapter because whole calculus and whole your science like physics and even further studies are interlinked. You can say backbone of calculus, important for science students. Questions are generally asked from second order derivatives. I would like to say important in this chapter is can be in this many questions can be solved by graph standing, like maxima, minima. You can like turn these type of graphs you might have seen. Sine graph is like that, cos graph, and these type of graphs you can study by these. If you want to study in short duration, then you can like for short you can go for previous year. Chapter 6, application of derivatives. First we'll discuss for short duration what you have to do. Practice tangent and normal to the curve questions. This is like you can easily remember this formula and directly input. For short duration I'm discussing like rate of change, like what is the rate of filling the water in the bottle, or like rate of discharge. These type of questions generally come from from these chapters. These are directly derivatives and like simple questions, and for short duration you can practice. For scoring, like if you want to score good in mathematics, then you have to practice this maxima and minima. Generally 6 marks it comes. 25% chances that it will come in your exam. Practice as much as you can. Calculus is all about practice. I know mathematics is all about practice. The more you do the practice, the better the marks you will score. But these tips I'm sharing with you to score like in a shorter duration. What you have to study and what are your goals, like whether you want to achieve more than 90% or 95%, or whether you just want to score average marks. So based on that you can select the topics and like study accordingly. And if you suppose you have not studied the continuity and differentiability, and you are practicing the maxima and minima, you are just mugging up maximum minima questions which you think that it will come, but again you are not going to solve this question in your exam if you don't have a understand the basic differentiability and those applications. Okay, now we come to the chapter 7, integrals. This is again, if you are from the science stream, then you have to study this chapter very well, and this chapter is indirectly based on your previous chapters, that is continuity and differentiability. So what is the key points of this chapter is that it is first of all the lengthiest and even the scoring chapter. Everything in this chapter is important, and generally questions, whenever you are solving the questions, like indirectly the question from each part of the integral chapter comes in your exam. So my suggestion is do all the topics, like 1 marks question also come, 4 marks also come, 6 marks also come. Now we come to the next chapter, that is chapter 8, applications of integrals. Easy and direct questions come. Like if you want to study in a short period on what you can do is you can practice some under simple curves, and like you can practice area bounded by 2 curves. So these basic understanding comes from the earlier chapters. So based on that you can practice this. This is again the application. You can just practice 2-3 questions and you can go and attempt some questions, and if you like go in deep, then also you are preparing yourself for the entrance exam. So question definitely come from this chapter. Now we come to the chapter 9, that is differential equations. Some students find this chapter like easy, some students find this chapter difficult. I'll tell you why. Because this chapter is linked with chapter 5 and chapter 7. So for like very short time you can practice some degree and order questions, like what is the degree of this equation, what will be the order. You might be familiar with this. So what you can study practice in this for like achieving your like higher goals, higher marks goals. You can practice methods of solving differential equations, and questions come from homogeneous differential equations. Now we come to the chapter 10 and 11, that is vector and 3D. Understanding of these chapters is need a proper time and proper like psychology and proper different way of doing the questions. My suggestion is start by solving the solved examples. So by this you can easily grab the understanding that what is a tangent and what is the normal to a plane, or what is the normal to a plane, because from the name you can familiar that it is 3D. You have to visualize 3D aspect of the question. What we have seen is some student directly just mug up the normal plane formula. Just when a question comes from the normal plane, they just put anything and everything, any like x, any y, and like any z, and they don't know what they are doing, because they can ask any normal to a plane in z, x, y, anything like. So it's like kind of a 3D imagination you have to develop. After developing the logic, what you can do is write formula and paste it on a wall. So this is a like key point of learning this chapter. Now next we come to the chapter 12, that is linear programming. For short time, what you can do is you can practice some graphical question, because this question will definitely come in exam and generally comes over 6 marks. Only if you practice just 2-3 questions also, then you can understanding how to make a graph. Don't like do mistakes in putting the points on a graph. If you do that, then there is no point in studying this chapter. So that's why definitely practice some graphical questions. The main point which you have to develop in making the equations. Plotting those equations on a graph is the easy part. Just practice 2-3 graph before exam and you know what to do. But making the equation where the maximum students like are not able to do. So making the equation is the key point of solving this like linear programming chapter. This chapter is very scoring. Now we come to the last chapter, chapter 13, probability. See, this chapter is totally different aspect in each and every student. Some students who have developed these concepts from their 10th standards or like from their 11th standard, they can understand the probability even in short duration. Generally 95% of the students lose marks in probability just because like they have not studied the probability chapter and they find it very difficult. Even like even some students who practice the probability, even those students also lose marks in probability, because they don't know they just solve the question and they think they are right, but actually they are wrong. You can it's a probable kind of a phenomena. So my suggestion to study this chapter is for short time, like practice some base theorem. My point is you cannot master this subject in short duration of time. This is very like time consuming and not totally a logic like developing chapter, so you have to devote some time to it. This practice this base theorem questions, and they will like there are chances that those questions will come, and if you are lucky then you can score the marks. But if you like score more than 90% or 95% in your exam, then you must have to study this probability chapter. And you have to keep in mind while like practicing this probability chapter is there are many solutions. There are many solutions for a particular question. The logic you can develop by a proper understanding, the theoretical understanding of the probability chapter, and then practicing chapter from your NCERT as well as your your reference books, whichever your school suggests you. These are the points through which we can score well in your exams, and if you follow these steps, you will definitely remove your maths anxiety, which many of the students have. And these tips will also help students who know mathematics well, but also don't have a fear of losing marks in the board exam. So in this way they can practice like this, and you definitely are going to score well. Okay, best of luck. In future also we are bringing these type of useful tips to crack like not only your board exam but also your like exams like in your Olympiads and in your entrance exams. So please subscribe to our channel and like our video and click the notification button to get you updated as soon as we will release a new tips for your exams.